We continue today with chapter 7. So we start new topic. Let's remove it right away because it's annoying. Okay. And our topic is Tirin, Korea. Okay, so Korea Tirin is one of 39 Avos Melachos. The curtains that used in the Mishkan were subject to attack by insects, such as moths, and sometimes develop small round holes. Since the round holes cannot be sewn neatly, in order to repair these holes properly, the artisans had to tear some of the adjacent fabric to elongate the holes, right? Elongate the holes before they could begin sewing. Since it was necessary for artisans to tear is considered a Melachah. So it's very interesting, very interesting. I have a question, but I don't have an answer. I just had a question, right? So we know that in the Beis Hamikdash we did not have this issue, right? In the Beis Hamikdash it says there were one of the 10 miracles in the Beis Hamikdash there were no flies. It says no flies, and what is it, the birds never flew over. The Beis Hamikdash, there were no animals, right? Even though there is a forest around it, so no animals were ever seen in the Beis Hamikdash court. I never heard anything about incense. I assume not, but maybe I'm wrong. But here in the desert, right, there were incense, right? And even though we know that this Mishkan in the desert was much more holier than Beis Hamikdash, right? Because both Beis Hamikdash were destroyed, and I don't know if you know that in both of them non-Jews participated in creating, right, building, but Mishkan was built only by Jews, only by Jewish force, and that's why it was never created. It was hidden, right? It was hidden. I think Shlomo HaMelech hid it, right? And when he built Beis Hamikdash, so it is there. It's never destroyed. But other two Beis Hamikdashim, yes, they were destroyed. It's a very interesting fact. So why there were moths in the desert? I don't know. That's BeEzrat HaShem will send us an answer, right? But we see there here is on one hand it is tearing, destruction, but on another hand it's for constructive purpose, right? So the small tiny hole they cannot fix, but they elongate it, make it longer, and then you can fix it nicely. Okay, so it is separate Melachah. So sewing that we covered last time, it's one Melachah, and tearing, it's a different one. I mean, maybe it should make sense if they put first tearing then sewing, but okay, that's what it is. They know better. Continue. The Melachah of tearing corresponds with the Melachah of sewing, right? As a general rule, tearing applies to the same circumstances as sewing applies, right? So meaning tearing was a part of the procedure, even though like it's a separate part. Like you would need, I guess, like the different instruments even to perform the tearing. They would do with the scissors or something, maybe with a very sharp knife or something, right? But for sewing you need different tools. Okay. As a general rule, tearing applies in the same circumstances as sewing applies. Thus, it is forbidden to tear any soft material, for example, the cloth, the leather, paper, cardboard, plastic, etc. Okay. Or to tear or peel or cut apart two things that were glued or sewn together. The prohibition of tearing is particularly pertinent to the opening packages and wrappers on Shabbos, as let us examine these laws in detail. So before we examine these laws in detail, so let's do this piece again, and we're going to understand, have a roadmap, or where exactly we're going, what exactly we're going to see, to learn, right? So first of all, it's applied to all of the soft materials, as we saw like in sewing, like a classic example, like two pieces of material or two sides of the same fabric, and you use the thread and the needle, right, to sew. That's classic example. But all other things are also, we call it taladas, also apply. We say connecting two pieces together. Doesn't matter how you connect it, right? In a permanent fashion, meaning with scotch tape, with a glue, or like any other substance. Right, and then the opposite is true. So you cannot undo these things. Here, okay. So, and of course, here also is going to apply to what, to toilet paper. Right, we're not allowed to tear the toilet paper from the roll. We're not allowed to tear off paper towels and other things. Okay. Okay. So let's see. So section number one, biblical prohibition. Generally speaking, Melachah consists solely of constructive activity. And the Melachah of tearing is no exception. Under biblical law, only tearing constructively is forbidden. As explained above, tearing was performed during the construction of the Mishkan by artisans who would tear the curtains in order to sew them properly. Hence, in the Mishnah Shabbos 73a, describe Melachah as tearing with the intention of sewing. There is tearing for the purpose enabling sewing properly, to sew properly. Okay, so that's let's try to analyze. I mean, we spoke about it already. So all of these melachas, right? As we said before, all of the melachas must be for constructive purpose. And one of the examples that we did we say it? I don't remember we said it. Erasing, erasing, of course. So we said erasing. So erasing, right, for the constructive purpose of the writing on top of it, right? So and here is tearing for a constructive purpose to sew it better. Okay. Continue. According to some poskim, since the tearing is inherently destructive, biblical prohibition pertains only to tearing for the very same constructive purpose for which it was done in the Mishkan, for the sake of sewing. Okay. So here's it's a little discount, right, for somebody who decided to tear. Meaning what that most likely whatever we're going to tear is not going to be a violation of the biblical command. We should not tear, period. But if a person is going to tear in today's day and age, so most likely it's not for the purpose of sewing, meaning it's going to be on a rabbinical level. So right, at least person is not going to get death penalty, right? But otherwise, right, because again on a biblical level, tearing for the sake of sewing. When done for this purpose, tearing is a part of the mending process, right? So meaning when you're trying to fix something. Tearing for any other purpose is not prohibited biblically. Most poskim, however, maintain that Melachah is a biblical prohibition, includes tearing for any constructive purpose. They described it as a tearing with intention of repairing. This includes, for example, tearing rolled paper into small sheets, right? Suitable for drying hands. And commentaries say, see page 41, similar discussion concerning Melachah of erasing. Right, so let's try to understand before we continue. Okay, so when done. So some poskim. Okay, so we have to make an accent. So some poskim said it's all Melachah of tearing apply on a biblical level only for as it was exactly in the Mishkan, meaning tearing for the sake of sowing. But other our poskim, so it says most of the paskim said no. Tearing is going to be a violation of the biblical on a biblical level, right? A biblical level for any constructive purpose, any. So meaning what? If you have a roll of paper towels and you want to do to wipe something. So in this case, when you separate this the sheet or whatever the paper towel, so for sure is for constructive purpose, so according to the majority of the opinion, right? Okay, continue. So and if a person does on a perforation, so that's another problem, cutting to specification, so it's like measuring, so that's a different issue. I mean different, but in addition. The halacha follows the stringent opinion that the tearing for any constructive purpose falls under the biblical prohibition. The ramification of this is that there is a never exception. There is never an exception to the prohibition when tearing is done for in constructive fashion. Right. So constructive fashion meaning that you need this whatever you tear, right? But with food packaging is a little different. So I don't care about food packaging, right? What I want the content, right? So there we would have leniency. Leniency meaning our poskim is going to allow to tear the food packaging. Of course, we must be very careful not to tear through the letters, but we'll see.